Welcome to SEC Football Live here from the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by ML Rose. That is Chris Childers, and I am Braden Gall. Chris, how are you, sir, on this
I'm
snowy
good.
Wednesday?
It's a nice, chilly Wednesday here in Nashville, but not as bad as we thought. You know, the roads are kind of clear and we're moving around, so good spirits today.
Children are home, so chaos has been
Oh my God.
taking over the whole house. Mine are out. I don't even know where they are now. They're out
Yeah.
they're out being feral. So who knows? Good for
Mine are
them.
home mine is home and she's got friends here, which is why I say mine because there's a couple
Yeah.
friends and it's my mom and dad are coming tomorrow and my house is trashed. So
Tell them I said hello.
I will.
I haven't seen Mr. and Mrs. Childers in a long
I
time.
will.
We also have another one from the neighborhood over, and then like the neighbors over, and now we don't know where they are, and
Oh
I
God.
can't go help them.
Yeah.
So like we're responsible for other people, and ours are much younger than yours, so who knows what's happening out there. But check out this fancy new ML Rose hat I've got
That's
on
pretty
here.
cool.
It's a very good looking hat. The merch, 6 great locations across Middle Tennessee, and of course a 7th coming to my neighborhood, which I care about a lot, in Inglewood in East Nashville. But fantastic brunch specials, fantastic drink specials, and if you're going to watch college basketball, which we are going to talk about today on the show for the first time, like maybe ever.
Nice.
I know you do a ton of college basketball work. You have your whole career, and I want to hear about Field of 68 as well. You've been doing work for them, and could be the greatest conference, not just like in SEC history, not
Ever.
just in college football now, but maybe the best basketball conference of all time. I was checking bracketology. 13 teams are in the tournament right now.
Could get
from
14.
which is
Could
crazy.
be. I know.
Oklahoma's 3-10, and they're in the tournament right now, which is bonkers. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. How many could make a Final Four run? How many could win the national title? I want to get your thoughts on that since you're the expert. But of course, the SEC meetings. I guess it's not SEC meetings. It's SEC taking over college football with Big Ten meetings is happening in New Orleans. Of course, right now they'll meet with all the other commissioners and pat them on the head a little bit next week. Next week, which will be the last time they ever have to deal with them in theory. So that's what we're really going to talk about. But again, cheers on this happy snow day to you and your family. Check out that ML Rose branded swag.
Yes, I like
there you
that.
Go. ML Rose, baby.
I actually was just there the other night to watch the hockey game, to watch the USA game, which
How
was
great was that? How great?
Oh
was
God,
that?
it was, dude. That wasn't it like watching a football game almost with the physicality and the fighting and I mean, it was nutty. It was so fun.
It was exactly like watching an SEC football game. Nobody in the stands understood the politics of what they were booing about. Anyway,
exactly. Yeah.
Look, I've been in dad mode the entire day. So all my jokes, all my jokes will be dad.
It's a beautiful dad joke. Yeah, they're in New Orleans right now, and essentially it is a, I've called Greg Sankey Palpatine. You know, if you've are a Star Wars fan of any measure, you know who Palpatine is. He's the bad guy that gets stronger, and he kind of has the lightning bolts flowing through him. And I used to love Greg Sankey. I used to think he was, really great. He's always been accessible to the media. He's always been very measured. I thought during COVID, that's when he got really strong because the Big Ten and the Pac-12 were going to close up shop, and it could have been just him being stubborn. But whatever it was that led to the ship still staying afloat and us having a season, remember the conversation that year when the Big Ten was going to close up? We were like, these athletic departments are going to die. They're going to have to close baseball programs and softball and all this stuff. And it's like, now we have money flowing out of our ears. If you're the Big Ten and the SEC, that never happened. And Greg Sankey gets a lion's share of that credit, whether he deserves it or not, whether he was lucky or not, doesn't matter. So I think, and Delaney retires, some of the other power brokers in college athletics go away, and Sankey's kind of that last bastion of power, and he's the only guy left in the world of college athletics besides Jim Phillips, but Jim Phillips has been neutered because of the changes. But everybody else is like a TV executive or a media, some sort of media background. So Sankey's got the power, and he knows it. And I think he's acted accordingly since. Sankey, to me, doesn't realize, or he doesn't want to come to the grips. And I've had conversations with him, I'm sure you have too, where he doesn't want to admit fault. He doesn't want to take responsibility for all of this. When he added Oklahoma and Texas, his response is, it was in our footprint. So we were just doing something to make us bigger, stronger, better. And then when the Big Ten added what they added, he got really pissed off and said, this is, against values, not realizing he did this. Like, he's the one who caused the dominoes.
Well, it's not just him. I mean, yes, he's the number one most powerful.
Yeah, it was. I mean, but yeah, he's the one who, but for him to be like legitimately upset, counterpunched is kind of ridiculous. So to me, we're in this, and now he's, he's leading the charge again. He's got Tony Petitti hand in hand in New Orleans, and they're essentially plotting the future. What do we do from a conference game perspective? What is the playoff going to look like? Should we get more auto bids? What is seeding going to look like? And they're essentially going to decide the future. And next week, like you said, they're going to pat everybody on the head and they're going to tell them what to do, or they're going to, threaten to leave.
Well, they don't even have to do that. They're just going to say, we'll do it next year when we can do it next year because we don't need your approval next year. But if you want to come along with us now, we will try to give you as much as possible now to help out with this next chunk of time. I do think they're going to try their best to keep it as stable as possible through 2031, which is when I think they want to blow up the ACC and when the group of five will no longer have access to the playoff as it does today, which is still in the contract language. That's what they all got. They gave the SEC and the Big Ten control over this stuff, the revenue distribution, in exchange for like a stay of execution until like 2031.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the 9-game conference schedule. I want to talk about 14 or 16 from an expansion standpoint. I want to know.
But hold on a second. Is that not killing college football? Is he not committing murder?
Well, I think we can. I think that's a good conversation, and I do think if you want to go back and blame, I think it's a lot of different parts.
Sankey's not, but is he not number one? Is that what will
no,
not be
fair.
his legacy?
Yeah. So here's the thing.
Go ahead.
This is,
and I'm sorry I find this to be interesting.
I find that this is the way I have to look at like people I disagree with who run businesses that I disagree with their practices.
Yeah.
Let me know what I mean. Here's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
There's a guy in Tennessee who runs one of the largest for-profit private prison companies in the world, CoreCivic, here in Nashville. Damon Haniger is going to run for governor. It's CoreCivic.
Okay.
It's based in Brentwood, and he's on an earnings call last week, and he is doing an earnings call, and he is like laughing. He is so excited about business and about how good business is going to be at his prisons because they are ready for a lot of influx of a variety of different folks based on new policies. I look at that and I have two very different emotions. Number one, I go, he's a CEO of a company and his job is to maximize profits. That is what he is paid to do. Greg Sankey is paid to do whatever is best for the SEC, full stop. His job is not to care about Washington State. As much as we all want it to be, that's not his job. But when I hear that gentleman on that earnings call giddy with joy about the number of humans he is about to put in prison, the human side of me is like, what the fuck are we doing? So you have to have two different views of somebody. It's no different if you disagree with the CEO of a healthcare company or an insurance company or whatever. Like you got to look at it two ways, which is when you are Mark Zuckerberg, your job is to maximize profits for Facebook and Meta and Instagram. If you are a functioning member of society, especially a parent like me of two daughters, you need to include other things and try to consider the rest of the population and what they're doing. And so the Pac-12 is guilty because they didn't sign a contract extension when they should have. The presidents overvalued themselves. And then the Pac-12 disappeared. And then, of course, the Big 12 murdered the Pac-12. And so it's the TV executives are part of this. The TV executives are just doing what's best for the TV executives. But they are a part of this because they're like, hey, Greg, Oklahoma and Texas would be real valuable, and we'll pay you extra for that.
Yeah.
Even though that's not allowed to be a conversation. So ultimately, I agree with you. I think Sankey has – I do think – and QC's talked about Kevin Warren here and Jim Delaney. Jim Delaney was the most forward-thinking, the most progressive, the most powerful person in college athletics all through the 90s and the 2000s. When he walked away and Kevin Warren stepped in before Tony Petitti and the Big 12 and the Pac-12 was going – Greg Sankey rose to the top very quickly. Very quickly. I totally agree with that.
Because if Delaney was still in power, I think it's a different dynamic. I think Sankey would at least have an equal. at least have somebody that would stand directly next to him who's a power broker, but that's just not the case right now. So, okay, so how much do you want to talk about this? Because you just took me down a rabbit hole that I could go really far down. Because to me, what you just described is the fundamental difference in the country. Okay. And I know this is an SEC podcast, so stop me whenever you want. Okay, please.
Never.
But to me, what you just described was okay. You just described America. You just described the Republican Party, conservatives, and capitalism, which is money, money, money. Do what you got to do. Don't hate the player, hate the game, right? The game is what it is, and I'm going to capitalize on the game, and I'm going to maximize my profits. And like the prison guy who owns the prisons, his prisons are going to be filled, so his people are exactly. He's Mr. Burns. he's making, and his investors are making money, and he's from a capitalist perspective and an investor perspective, he's a winner.
7% every quarter. 7% every quarter.
So I look at the country, and this might be oversimplistic, but again, stop me when you want. I look at the country in kind of two ways. I think there's people that really, truly live by the dollar. They live by their finances, whether they want to admit it or not. It's they look at their bank accounts, they look at their taxes, they look at whatever, and they say, I'm voting accordingly to what is going to maximize my ability to have more money in my bank account. And I think that's the side of the aisle that we're talking about. That's that mentality that this is greed. Greed is good. Gordon Gekko, it's capitalism, etc. Now, there's another side. And again, I think you described the Democratic Party.
My feelings. Well,
the people that think about, the empathetic, right? The ones that say, okay, hold on a second. You've made a lot of money. What about everybody else that would like a little piece of the apple here? Because your trickle-down economics are not trickling down. You've got it all. And the gap between you and the Big 12 and the ACC and the Sun Belt and Conference USA is ginormous. So at some point, you got to go F yourself. I mean, this is insane. You guys just keep hoarding and hoarding. You're like Scrooge McDuck on DuckTales. At some point, Sankey's going to do the backstroke in gold coins. I mean, that's it. And again, you said it. He's done his job brilliantly. But at what point do you say, okay, the system's fucked? And this is what he's doing is soulless. He's great for the SEC, but he's crushing the greater good of college athletics at the same time. So he could be the greatest SEC commissioner ever. And they're going to be sitting on, they're going to, every president's going to have, a throne, and they're going to have grapes being fed to them and being feathered. And
by Hugh Freeze. Please be Hugh Freeze.
I hope he's wearing a loincloth, and Hugh Freeze is feeding grape. Yes.
It's only loincloths
exactly.
For everybody. But let's continue.
Grapes.
Let's continue.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think that's...
Yeah, of course. Let's continue the analogy a little bit here, which is sort of Sankey. Like, again, for the we're going to use like a nameless CEO for a nameless company, right? A Fortune 50, Fortune 100 company. His job is to do the best possible job, his job for the shareholders. That's it. Stock board. That's it. That's all it is. That's your job. Number one, it's why you get paid all that money. But the people who benefit are not just the company. It's also the people who have a stake in the company, which in this case, in this analogy, are Auburn fans, are Tennessee fans, are Alabama fans. And so it's not just what the conference wants and what he wants and making money for the rich folks that run the conference or the athletic directors or the universities. It's kind of probably what most fans want too, which is I want to win a national championship, and I don't care about the character flaws of the player or the coach. I don't care about what happens on campus. I don't care about the safety of women on my campus. I don't care about this investigation. The police need to make that go away. I don't care if they get in a race and somebody dies. I'm just saying, like, we all sort of make those sorts of priorities as fans about what the cost of winning is for us personally. And it's not just, I know what you're saying about left and right and Republicans and Democrats. And while I agree that generally that's correct, it obviously is, it goes without saying it's a large, broad brush here. But I do think...
But you don't see that's at the crux of the situation.
Yeah. Now, but I also believe that like tens and tens and tens of millions and maybe hundreds of millions of people are in the middle, like me, who are like, no, I want to make as much money as possible and also try to look out for other people. Like I think most people actually exist in the middle. So I'm not gonna.
Yeah, like to me, you should be happy at a certain point. Like you're powerful, you're the king, you're good. Now let's make sure
Well,
everybody else keeps their scholarships and has opportunity. And
I also think it's and this is where college athletics finds itself in a very strange place, which is I do think it's different if you are the CEO of, Ford versus the executive director of a nonprofit. You have two totally different job descriptions. And so the college athletics has always found itself in this weird gray area between the two, because it is a tax exempt nonprofit thing where the state's higher education gets money from the government, all this other stuff. And again, we're off on a tangent here, but if we're talking about what is the purpose, like what's the goal of college football? Well, it used to be one thing, which is, hey, if everyone needs a college education, or we're trying to give everybody a college education, and if you can play some sports along the way to get yourself that free education, then freaking awesome. And then around 96, it started to grow. And then around 2004, all of a sudden we went from coaches making $500,000 to coaches making $4 million. And now they're making $10 million. And the game has changed, and that's just is what it is.
Yeah.
And now we've got to deal with it. And so ultimately, I wanted to talk about so many other things. I do find this very interesting.
No, I think this is the topic, though.
So here's the thing. If you continue down the path of shrewd, cutthroat, CEO, stock prices, corporate boards style of leadership here, and the SEC as a whole, and I'm not putting it all on Sankey, I'm putting it on the SEC as a conference, right? As a conference.
He's the face.
If they want to all go it's like Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell takes the PR hits for all the owners. He is representing the owners.
Job.
The SEC office represents the 16-member institutions. They're all in on this. They may disagree on 8 versus 9 conference games, but they're all in on this. So the question is, like, if at what point if we continue down this path, does it eventually have a point of diminishing returns and hurt us? And I don't think there's a point, because if it explodes into a 2-conference super league, which is going to happen in 2032, in my opinion, and every game is between those 2 conferences. There's no SoCon Saturday in November. There's no Mississippi State playing Southern Miss in week 1, which is a really cool game. That ain't going to happen. It's all like, if we go so far to where it's ultra corporatized or capitalized or whatever the phrase you want to use is there ever a point where it begins to hurt profits, hurt the fans' chances to win a championship? Does it hurt Alabama fan or Georgia fan or Texas fan that they're only playing awesome games every Saturday and they're competing for championships against 49 other teams in a 50-team breakaway that has access to every slot in the playoff? Because that's where we're going with this. They're going to take 8 bids this time, and then it's going to be 12 bids, and then it's going to be their own tournament. And I'm okay with that as long as I get another tournament over here with all the other teams. So I don't know if there's a point of diminishing returns on this for the SEC. If that does that make sense?
I don't know. Maybe there is. I mean, because my worry is you turn it into hockey or you turn it into lacrosse. And what I mean by that is, hockey is a really big deal in a very small region of the country when it comes to college. And they sell out Minnesota games. They sell out North Dakota games, but nobody in Nashville gives a flying fuck about anything that's going on in NCAA hockey. Look at lacrosse. Tell me who won the championship last year. I don't know. But it's a huge deal, and they sell it out in the Northeast. I've always just kind of worried in the last 20 years that we've turned it into a Southeastern sport, that we, especially during the 4-team era, where everybody was kind of coming from LA, the Tuas, the whoever, Hawaii, et cetera, was coming to a handful of schools, and predominantly in the Southeast. Right. No, I think, the portal and NIL and collectives have evened that out a little bit, and you've seen the Big Ten kind of rise up. I think Tony Petitti, to me, the shame of it all, and this might piss people off, but I think we are in a position right now where the Big Ten is actually the power broker. I think the Big Ten is the better football conference. I think the Big Ten. No, I do. And I'm going to tell you why.
No, I know. It's okay. I disagree, but it's okay.
No, but you can disagree all you want to, but I'm going to tell you why. NIL and collective changed it. All the shit that was happening in the SEC before that led to the bogarting and the winning and all that, it's now all out in the open, and they got more money up there. They're better schools. I mean, they're richer.
No argument there.
They're rich. I mean, they just when they want to care, they care.
I know, but it sounds crazy to say this, but like they still don't care as much, and that's
I think
ultimately
they will.
the
I mean, I think they are. You see it. I mean, you see it at some of these schools, like even Indiana. Their collective is. I mean, they're essentially telling basketball to kiss their ass and giving it to Signetti.
It has no question closed the gap, leveled the playing field.
Big time.
You know, whatever you want to do. I totally agree. And if Penn State does it again this year and they go 3 different schools in 3 years, then I'll be on board with that conversation. Okay. There's still I still think it's.
I know it's a dumb thing to say on this show, but whatever.
No, it's fine. No, dude, look, this is like this show right here for SEC fans. In my, this is what I want it to be. Which is like being, not to go back to politics, but like being an American.
Yeah.
What I think being an American is almost all about at its core.
Yeah.
Is being able to say, I love my country so much that I can be critical of it when it needs to be.
Yeah.
That is to me like at its core.
Well,
American
you know, I love
principle.
the SEC. It's just, I feel like it's just getting too obnoxiously powerful. And I feel Sankey is kind of like snowballing into just like a real bad guy. And I used to, and I used to love him. Like I used to think he was the coolest guy.
Well, here's what's going to happen. So there's a lot of different, I want to get into actual details of the expansion here because I do find the decisions they have to make. And it is, in my vision, it is no longer the SEC. It's no longer Greg Sankey. It is the Big Ten and the SEC together as one group. They are one thing making decisions about the sport, that they are together, and it's no longer just a regional thing in the Southeast because the Big Ten goes from Seattle to LA to, Rutgers. Like the Big Ten covers all of it. They have lots of money, more than the SEC, more alumni, more fan bases, bigger TV markets. The SEC has a little bit better talent and a little bit more winning, but like a lot smaller fan bases. And it's all together now. In my vision of it all, college football is run by those 34 teams. The question I have is it going to be like 40 or 45 or 50 when they officially do? And I think somebody mentioned this, Big Lubbock said, why would the senators and House reps from non-SEC or non-Big Ten states vote for an exemption? I assume he's talking antitrust exemption, which is down the road, I guess, on a potential vote. But if you've paid attention to our government, I'm not sure they can get anything accomplished.
No kidding.
So ultimately, they're going to go to 14 or 16 in 2026.
Yeah. And
they don't need any approval from the group of 5 or from Notre Dame or from anybody else. They can just decide what they want to do. I want to work through this systematically.
Okay.
Do you like 14 or do you like 16 as a college football fan? Which one do you like?
I like the higher number. I like 16. I don't mind the more the merrier. I actually looked at this season and thought it was the best college football season I can ever remember. I have certainly had this argument with purists. There's a guy that is a big CPA accountant guy in Chicago, Matt, who's a Florida alumni, and him and I argue. He's like, they've ruined the regular season. It was the greatest regular season ever. And I said, bullshit. They made it better. I mean, look at how many games mattered in November. The last week of the season was more interesting than it's ever been. So to me, if you add 4 more teams, you're just going to make it that much bigger, that much better. I think I see what QC Hawk just said. I think he's right on it. Kill the conference championship games. That's the way to do it.
So this is for SEC fans. I think this is the calculus. For 14, it's going to be an NFL style 7-side versus 7-side of the bracket. Hopefully reseeding is a part of that. We'll see. Mm-hmm. But the top 2 would get a bye, which is almost always going to be reserved for the Big Ten champion and the SEC champion should they win conference title games. I like that better. It also keeps the championship game valid. I like 14 because I don't want to go too big just yet. I have honestly, where I'm at now, Chris, is I don't care anymore.
I just want it
12,
to be good.
14, 16, like just settle on something and stick with it for more than like 3 years.
I just want it to be entertaining is all. And to me,
well, hang on. I want to go with QC here on championship. If you go to 16 or you keep the 4 bye weeks, for example, 4 teams getting a bye, you have removed the value from the championship game. And it doesn't mean anything. So the question about, and Big Lubbock says it too, get rid of the buys and go to 16. So here's my question. If you have 4 automatic bids and 16 teams, mm-hmm. the conference championship game doesn't really exist at that point.
No.
It's an exhibition. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, because I've seen this floated. And while I don't like that everything seems to be breaking so fast in college football in terms of change and structure and everything, I could get behind the 3 seed in the SEC. So instead of a championship game on Championship Saturday, you have a basketball-style conference tournament where you have the 3 seed versus the 6 seed, the 4 seed versus the 5 seed in a doubleheader in the Big Ten and the SEC, and the winner of those 2 games gets the automatic bid and gets into the playoff. The top 2 are automatically in, right? Let's say it's Georgia and Texas this past year. They're in. 3rd place is Tennessee. Tennessee has to play 6th place South Carolina. Winner gets in. 4th place Alabama plays 5th place Ole Miss. Winner gets in. So you have a doubleheader play-in game, much like you would watch the Missouri Valley Conference tournament get to a point where 2 teams are left, and Belmont, hopefully, here in Nashville, is getting into the tournament. That could work for the Big Ten as well.
Yeah.
Are you opposed to that idea?
Not at all. And here's why I think it's brilliant. Actually, I think that's an incredible idea because the conference championship. No, seriously, the conference championship games.
Oh, I got more. Just wait, I got more.
Don't matter. I mean, we saw that this year. I mean, Ohio State went on to win a championship, and essentially the loss to Michigan didn't matter, and it almost helped them to kind of get recalibrated and pissed off. So we've diminished it to begin with. What Rick Neuheisel always says, and I think it's one of the greatest quotes of all time, is when it comes to anything, the answer is money. Now, what's the question? Right? The answer is money.
Yeah.
Now, what's the question? So to me, the reason you don't get rid of the championship games is because they spit out money. However, if you've now replaced them with some
2 of them,
now you're cooking with peanut oil. Because now you can go to the table and say, well, we can kill this. However, we've got 2 beautiful things we can sell that are going to generate
2 enormous
more.
Tracts of land.
Big globes of land. We are going to sell them and make even more money. And as soon as you say more money, everybody gets, all erect. They get all excited.
Aroused. She's got huge tracts of land.
You start talking money, these people, they don't know what to do with themselves.
I got more. Here we go.
Yes,
you want some more? Because this is the title is the Big Ten scared of the SEC? This is where I get to ask the question about your beloved Big Ten superiority.
Yeah.
All right. Have you looked at the non-conference schedule in the Big Tens? There's a bit of a wind up here, so I apologize. You're gonna have to listen to all this.
Okay, go ahead.
I have not. Have you looked at the non-conference schedule in 2025 for anybody?
No.
Okay, Big Ten, SEC, and there's a very valid point to all of this.
Okay.
It's not just about like, hey, Big Ten, what are you doing? So the Big Ten in all of 2025, 18 teams, they will play 12 games against Power 4 non-conference opponents. 12 total games.
12. Okay.
7 of those games are at home, 5 on the road. 4 of them are probably against ranked opponents, maybe a couple of more ranked opponents. Only 2 of them are in week 1. And 7 teams in the conference will not play a Power 4 non-conference game.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a strategic retreat.
Is the ghost of Mike Slive running the league?
I think this is a strategic retreat from conference games to get their teams into the playoff based on exactly what we just talked about with CEOs. The Big Ten doing what's in the Big Ten's best interest.
Yep, that's what Mike Slive did, dude, for years. In November.
I said the windup was long. Wait.
I'm sorry, but I'm interjecting to your windup.
Right now, USC will play at Notre Dame. Purdue will play at Notre Dame. Texas and Ohio State, thank the little baby Jesus, good Lord, that we get in that game in week number 1 because it's just spectacular. Arch Manning debuting against the defending champs, like hell yeah. Otherwise, I'm looking here. Iowa at Iowa State, which is El Asico, is always, on the schedule.
Yeah.
Those are the only 4 guaranteed ranked non-conference Power 4 opponents the Big Ten will play because they're scared. They should play. USC had on the schedule. And the reason I thought about this, there's only 1 team in the SEC that does not have a Power Conference non-conference opponent. Okay? P4.
Okay.
The SEC will play 18 games, so 6 more this year. 6 of them are in week 1. A bunch of them are on the road. 9 of those games are on the road. Double digits are against ranked opponents, again, based on, very early rankings. But their schedule, Texas at Ohio State, Alabama on the road at Florida State. Yes, I know Florida State sucks, but on the road at Florida State scheduled is a good game. LSU at Clemson. South Carolina will play Virginia Tech. Texas A&M will play at Notre Dame. Tennessee and Syracuse. You got Arizona State, Mississippi State. Auburn is at Baylor in week number 1. Baylor's a sneaky good football team. And that does not include all the games at the end of the season with all the SEC teams. The point is I am concerned that with the 9 conference game schedule, we are seeing the results of that, which is the Big Ten sort of retreating a little bit more away from big non-conference games. Credit to Michigan, by the way. They're going to go to Oklahoma, which when they scheduled that probably felt like a really big game for both teams. And they didn't know that Oklahoma was going to be struggling and Michigan was coming off of one of its worst years. Is this the result of what the 9-game conference schedule is doing to us?
Yes, and it's a result of the committee saying they don't care who you play. Even though they've told us they do, they really just care about how many games you win. I mean, to me, they've been pretty transparent. Win more games than the next team, and you'll get the benefit of the doubt. And that's just kind of the way that it's been. Until somehow, some way that changes, and they say, look, if you play Tiddlywinks Tech and Sally Struthers A&T, you're not going to get credit for it. And it's not even going to count as a win. It's going to be no data at all. I think until we do that, and the only thing that they count is the Power 5 games, then there's zero incentive. I think what they're doing is smart. It's what Mike Slive used to do when he used to have, in November when everybody else was playing conference games, beating the hell out of each other during the BCS era. He'd have, Georgia playing, Eric Estrada Tech and Alabama would play Tiddlywinks States, and they'd play these little powder puff schools and kick their ass and let everybody else beat each other out. It's just smart.
So Ole Miss is the only team in the SEC this year that will not play an out-of-conference P4 team.
Yeah.
And the only reason that is not happening is because when Lincoln Riley took the job at USC, he canceled a home and home with Ole Miss because he's soft. Number 2, because again,
you don't think the SEC would retreat if they had 9?
I don't know. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Would.
I know QC's an Iowa fan, and so this is not. I'm really kind of having fun with the Big Ten thing. I think the more interesting question is what actually is happening here. What are they actually? Here's the problem: Penn State is going to play Nevada, FIU, and Villanova.
Smart. Now I hate it as a fan. It compromises the product. The product sucks.
Indiana, Washington, Rutgers, Minnesota, and Maryland, all of whom, by the way, could be decent this year.
As well as I do.
And Northwestern are not playing an out-of-conference team. And even the ones that are playing, it's like Minnesota, we're playing at Cal, Illinois at Duke. Credit to Wisconsin for playing the home and home with Alabama. Credit to Bama for playing the home and home with Wisconsin. Michigan State got that big one against Boston College. Okay. Oh, how about this one? This is my favorite one, by the way, that counts technically as one of their P4 opponents. Cincinnati versus Nebraska at Arrowhead Stadium.
Damn right.
What are we doing?
Get that all over you.
What are we doing? And don't tell me these Big Ten coaches, they act like playing the 9th conference game is the same as climbing the Twin Towers after the airplanes hit the buildings. This is not that big of a deal. You're going to play Purdue in November. Oh my God. You're going to play Northwestern in November. Oh my God. Playing the 9th conference game is not that tough.
It's still, however, my one pushback would be I'm quoting
Alex Kirshner, by the way. So if you look,
you are automatically scheduling more losses in your league when you add the 9th game. It's just the way that it is. You're scheduling more losses, which means more coaches get fired, which means so there's ramifications there, and it can be a self-sabotage. So in my opinion, what the Big Ten is doing, if they're going to play 9 conference games and it's a TV ding and it's an inventory thing, then the committee has said, as long as your record is 10-1, 11-1, 12-0, guess what, pals? We're going to put you in the playoff.
So here's my, so I do not like.
You got to give them incentive.
I do not like the automatic qualifiers. I don't like the 4 for the SEC, 4 for Big Ten, 2-2-1. I don't like it. I think the best 12, 14, 16 should get in. That's how I feel about it. The trade-off is if you get, here's my debate. Do you want it to be top 16 getting in, no automatics, but 8 conference games? Because what's going to happen is the SEC is going to say, this is what this is what Greg Sankey is doing right now. We're Roy Kramer.
Yes.
This is what Greg Sankey is saying right now in the meeting, probably like literally as we're sitting here.
Yeah.
He's saying, look, we will go to 9 conference games and we will demand, because half the league doesn't want to do it and the other half does. We will demand we're going to go to 9 conference games, but in order to get that, you got to give us automatic qualifiers, because then we don't care about the losses as much. And, to your point, the answer is money. Who wants the money? Well, the TV executives want ratings. The athletic directors want ticket sales. And frankly, the fans want more good football for their prices that they're paying for NIL and for tickets.
Sure.
So it's going to go to 9 conference games. But with that probably comes the automatic qualifier. I don't love that sacrifice. I don't, but I think it's going to happen. That's my
I don't
opinion.
either, but I think the automatic qualifier is coming. I think they're protecting they're protecting their brand, their image, their money,
their feelings.
Yes, all of it. I mean, they're just they're making sure that they have the proper amount of revenue coming in every year, and to do that, you establish preseason how many bids you get. So, it certainly makes sense from their business perspective.
So here's the last thing and here's my other idea, because I'm kind of on board. I'm kind of coming around on the 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 on Championship Saturday in the 2 big leagues to like automatically qualify to the playoff if we're going to do that. Here's my other one. The NFL is going to kind of keep creeping back to the season that we own as college football fans. And college football needs to take control of week 0 immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to take over that weekend and dominate and celebrate the launch. So here's my idea.
Okay.
The Big Ten and the SEC, if they both go to 9 conference games and they both have automatic qualifiers and the playoff expands to 16, all of which I think is going to happen, you're going to get a scheduling agreement of some sort between the 2 conferences to sort of solve this problem that we're debating here, which is scheduling and strength of schedule, etc. Mm-hmm. It'll never be 16 on 16 or 14 on 14 or even 12 on 12, but you might get 8 or 10 teams a year rotating into that challenge, let's call it, Big Ten SEC challenge, let's call it.
Sure.
I think you need to have 5 straight nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, either week 1 or week 0, where you have a Big Ten SEC dominant sort of TV program for everyone to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if they put them in other countries. So you've got
like that.
So you got Texas USC, Big Ten SEC Challenge in Monterrey, Mexico. You've got Penn State versus Tennessee in, Germany.
Played at Wembley.
You got one in London, you got one in Ireland, you got one in Mexico, you got one in Brazil if you want, and you dominate all over the globe for an entire weekend. And then you can still play 3 or 4 more in home stadiums. You could still have Wisconsin and South Carolina in Columbia, and you could still have Arkansas and Iowa in Iowa City. And you could have 8 or 10 of them. And here's the deal. You sell it as a separate TV package to make a ton of money. A ton of money. And a 10-game package between the Big Ten and the SEC would be worth into the 8 figures. We are talking tens of millions of dollars per year for the rights to broadcast that. And you know who you sell it to? You sell it to Netflix.
That's brilliant. And they'll pay for it. I mean, have you seen what they're paying the WWE for Raw? They want live programming, and they know it. Here's the thing about it. I think Raw has been a good experiment to show that like everybody kind of has it. And you're going to hit more people through Netflix than really anything else now. So it's kind of become the mainstream. It's become like network television of the past, which is weird because it's a subscription service. But I think what the experiment with WWE has shown that. I was looking at numbers the other day, just I was out of curiosity because we're seeing more and more live streaming with sporting events, etc. I think that's brilliant because like we've said 100 times, we'll say it again, the answer is money. What's the question? That's going to spit out a ton of money.
Yep.
I have been a big proponent of growing the game globally. Roger Goodell has laid a beautiful foundation. The NFL in London right now, I mean, you went to London. I've been to London. I saw quite a few NFL jerseys. I saw quite a few stores with, our stuff in the window from a sports perspective. I don't know if you put on in your hotel room the sports channels, but all of our stuff was on. I was able to watch Nashville SC take on Atlanta at 1 o'clock.
It's a big rivalry.
Well, yeah, it is. But right. 1 o'clock. I'm not even kidding. I'm in a London hotel room at the Aldgate East, and I'm watching NSC at like 3 a.m. or whatever it was, and I'm like, this kicks ass.
You're like, Honey Mukhtar,
I know. Well, he was taking I was like literally flipping through. I was flipping through because your timing's all thrown off when you're over there.
Yep.
And I'm flipping through and I'm like, holy hell, Honey's taking a corner. I can't believe I can see this right now. Live on TV.
You know a great place to watch a Nashville SC match if you're in Tennessee or in Nashville? ML Rose. They are the official sponsor of the Club and Country podcast, which covers Nashville SC soccer. Make sure you check
ML
that
Rose
out.
is like the best place for soccer, actually.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. They branded themselves a soccer bar with the help of my company. Anyway,
nice. Good.
So I here's the thing. I would love also for it to be like, okay, Germany kickoff 8 a.m. Eastern time. Right. So you get the early window. Then you got a London kickoff at like 11 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have like a Brazil kickoff at like 2 p.m. And then you have a Mexico City kickoff. I mean, hell, why not put like Washington versus Oklahoma and Japan? Like, what are we doing? Keep going. just keep going.
Here's where I would follow immediately. I would follow in the footsteps of where the NFL's already been.
Totally agree.
And just ride the coattails because our product's better than that. And I think anybody that I was watching the night of the Ohio State Texas game, there was this lady that went on social media and posted. She was like from New Zealand. She was on vacation in America. And she put on the game and she was just kind of flipping through in her hotel. And she's like, what the hell? She's like, there's a 500-piece band. These people are going nuts. She's like, this is awesome.
It's very rugby. I mean, I think SEC football.
I'm telling you, they will latch onto it like leeches. They will love it.
SEC football has always reminded me of European soccer. And frankly, Aussie rules, rugby and New Zealand rugby. Here's the thing. And people don't love it. People don't realize this. Like, I love the college football video game. I know you did growing up. We all loved it. Do you know that Madden sells more copies in one day than the college football game will sell the entire year?
Really?
It's not even close because it is not. It's not an international product.
I know.
It's not. It is. College football is exclusively, basically, lower 48. And so what Roger has done with the NFL is slowly build brands over time in other markets. I completely agree. They're going to be in Australia next year or 2 years from now. That the college football world has to sort of recognize, and they don't have to, but to our earlier conversation, do what makes money.
Yeah.
Germany,
there's money.
England, Ireland, Brazil, Mexico. I don't know how far east you go, but whatever, you do it, and you put the Big Ten and the SEC together in a separate package that you sell for a fortune. It makes everybody money. And, oh, by the way, it creates good games for us. It creates a little bit more balanced scheduling. It creates data points for people to sort of look at in terms of evaluating where teams should be ranked. It's like, if we're going to lean into this capitalism shit, which we have always done.
Yes, we have.
Let's do it for real.
Let's do it full throttle.
Full-throated.
It's funny you bring this up because I said this a couple years ago about, and I was just like, my dream, I said it to Rick Neuheisel. I said, my dream is to be in London one day, to get off the tube at Wembley Stadium, to walk up to that place and to watch Ohio State play Alabama. Like, I just think it would be the coolest fucking thing to ever happen.
No.
Why?
I want it to be like weirder than that.
No, but it would just make me so.
I want it to be like,
give them our best.
I mean,
let's give them something sexual.
A little tongue in cheek there, but like,
don't give them like Mississippi State and Purdue.
Okay, fair. Give me like Ole Miss. Give me like current Lane Kiffin Ole Miss versus like Talia Tagovailoa Maryland. Like, just fireworks, baby. Just give me fireworks.
Wembley. Wembley deserves the biggest, the best. Buckeyes and Bama. Let's go.
I hear you.
Let's go. Michigan, Georgia, doubleheader.
Texas is now the new Bama, so it's Texas, Ohio State, week 1.
Fine, play that. Fine. Roll Tide.
Look, I can't help it that the Big Ten is scared. They're so scared. Here's what it is.
They're the power brokers now.
We'll see. Again, I don't think there is a singular power broker. It is the two conferences together. That is, they will decide everything. And
I think
what's good for the
decide it.
What's good for the SEC is good for the Big Ten. What's good for the Big Ten is good for the SEC. And what's good for the two of them is probably bad for everybody else. It's the way it works.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk a little basketball here. ML Rose, please. You got 6 great locations in Middle Tennessee. If you are in town, if you're one of those great fans that pays attention to Chris and myself, and you're in town in Nashville and you want to come grab a great burger and see the best that Nashville has to offer or Middle Tennessee has to offer from a craft beer standpoint, please check out ML Rose. It's right there.
I might go tonight.
It says craft beer and burgers right there.
I might go literally after this.
Great spot for the kids. Great food. It's super affordable. The TVs are everywhere. You can watch college basketball all week long everywhere at ML Rose. So I want to ask you first and foremost, how did this happen? How did the SEC become the best, most dominant basketball conference this year and ever in history, apparently, according to Jay Billis?
Money. Same thing I was just talking about with the Big Ten. First of all, Greg Sankey said a while ago he wants basketball to matter, right? So we hired Mike Tranghese to be a consultant who's the former Big East commissioner, and it wasn't like rocket science. He's like, you got to schedule better and you got to hire better coaches. I mean, it's just really not that hard. If you invest in the game, you'll see the fruits of the labor. Now, what they didn't account for at the time was the fact that we were going to essentially blow up the system and it was going to be pay for play. You know, whatever NIL was intended to be is not even close to what it is. This is flat out pay for play. And it's if you have resources, you're going to be good. Well, we've got a bunch of superstars. I think another reason is Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl came in and like P.T. Barnum, you know, when Bruce, you worked with Bruce, I've worked with Bruce. When Bruce got the job at Auburn, Auburn was the dregs of basketball society. And the only reason Bruce took that job was because Bruce was broken. He was discarded. He was 2-year show cause because of a dumbass barbecue that in hindsight now looks so dumb. But it
was more than that, but
I know, but still,
all the things that happened were dumb. We're dumb.
100%.
It's like Hugh Freeze. Everything that Hugh Freeze did then is now
doesn't matter. Exactly. And it just kind of looks silly that we, looked at it in such a heinous way. But, Bruce got to Auburn and he was P.T. Barnum and he was, taking off his shirt and he took a program that in his first year, it was a modern miracle. They won 3 games in the SEC tournament. He's turned it into the best home environment in college basketball. And Jay Billis will say that. Jay Billis will say the jungle is the number one. And just think about that.
It's right.
Think about
it. Awesome. That's great.
That's incredible. So I think he kind of elevated. So I think when he did it, Alabama said, okay, you're serious. We're going to hire Avery Johnson. Now, Avery came from the Spurs, didn't produce the same results, but now Nate Oates is certainly taking them to the promised land. You're seeing an investment. You're seeing an investment from a roster perspective and collective. You see it in facilities. You see it in everything. I mean, they schedule well. What they did in the non-conference this year is the reason why that their conference games seemingly don't matter to lose. I mean, you mentioned Oklahoma. You can lose all the quad 1 games you want, and you still aren't going to not make the tournament. I mean, it's almost like there's no pressure on a given night, and if you win, you're going to skyrocket. I mean, it's kind of
what do they have? What do they have? 14 quad 1 wins?
Yes.
Out
of conference.
And everybody, the next highest is 7 or something.
That's why they're going to get 13, 14 bids. And because of that, so they paid attention. They hired good coaches. They scheduled well. Now they're winning those games. So now they've got the feather in the cap on Selection Sunday when it comes to the committee. And they're going to get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to, who should be on the right side of the bubble or not. And because of it, you're seeing the deepest league ever. And the league has responded. I mean, if you've watched these games, the atmospheres and the gyms have been off the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, Tuscaloosa on Saturday was the site of 1 versus 2,
And
I thought the lid was going to blow off the place.
Yeah, it was nuts.
It was awesome.
My 8-year-old knows, like, she loves all sports, and she enjoys everything, but she has her favorites. Like, she loves Predators hockey and football. She loves football. And she'll kind of dabble in, like, okay, Tennessee was playing in the College World Series. She'll watch it. Mets were in the playoffs. She'll watch baseball. She likes softball because she plays. She doesn't watch a ton of basketball, and she was like glued to. I like went to do like chores.
Yeah, it was fun.
And came back, and she was just sitting there watching 1 and 2, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm just watching the basketball game." I was like,
the game.
Okay, honey.
Yep.
So here's my. So first of all, tell everybody about Field of 68. I know you do that. I don't know how often you do that, but you do that a bunch.
Doing it
generally
tonight
after dark.
Doing it tonight with Tyler Hansborough and Randolph Childress, which is really cool. You know, you and I covered Tyler. He's just an assassin inside for UNC, and Randolph was a great player, you know, when we were growing up. So 2 great guys to work with. We'll be talking. There's a really good SEC slate tonight that we'll be recapping at 11 o'clock on the Field of 68. You can check it out. Twitter, X, YouTube.
All the places you're watching currently on this show.
So you really don't have to look very far, because you just type in Field of 68 and there it is. But it's really cool. It was really nice that Jeff Goodman asked me to be a part of it. They needed somebody to, you know, do a couple days a week. And it's been really neat because you get to work with people that just are really real insiders. You know what I mean? Like, they really know the game. And so I've learned a lot from them.
All right, so make sure you check that out. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere you can get your shows, all the digital platforms. Turn the notifications on for them and for us as well. Make sure you got the thumbs up there turned on. And, of course, give us all a follow all over the social platforms. You can argue with us about everything I've said today on the show. It's totally fine. I don't care. My feelings aren't going to be hurt. How many teams can legitimately in the conference? Because, again, we're talking 13 getting in. The record is 11 from the Big East back about 15 years ago. So the question is, how many, in your opinion, could actually – because Final Four, wacky things happen, and like 8 seeds can get to the Final Four. Yeah. I think there's like 9 or 10 of them that can get to the Final Four. Certainly, my alma mater has never done that, so I wouldn't bet on it. But we'll see. The question is, how many can win the national championship? How many can win 6 games in March?
I want to say 1. I want to say Auburn. I think Alabama's great, but they have their deficiency defensively. And we've talked a lot about how they play analytical basketball. They shoot a lot of threes. They get to the rim. There's no in between. We all know what happens if you don't hit shots, then you're screwed, right? So luckily for them, they hit a lot of shots a lot, and they've been pretty damn good, and they score a lot of points, but that's a worry for me. Tennessee, beyond Chaz Lanier, who's going to score the ball? So that's my worry. They're kind of typical Tennessee, great defensively. They shut you down, but beyond one guy like Dalton Connect a year ago, who's going to score?
And Rick Barnes has such a great track record in the tournament. So
yeah, exactly. Right. Not so much Florida. Maybe, Florida, I think certainly is kind
of number 2 in the nation. Oh, maybe
they've overcome. Well, but they've, do you trust them kind of a thing?
Yeah.
They've overcome a lot. They've overcome the Todd Golden weird shit off the court and all that. So I think they have a chance. Here's what I will say. I have a sneaky suspicion Duke is UConn of the last 2 years and is going to beat the shit out of everybody.
They got a really good player, don't they?
He's a freak. He's not just really good. He
pooped on himself against Clemson, though. So,
well, you know what? I've shit myself a time or two, and I came out the other side better off for it. I did it one time in 8th grade. I just couldn't hold it. Shit all over myself. It was bad.
A few times at Bonnaroo, maybe into a plastic bag.
Definitely done that. Yeah. Oh God, 100%. I'm like Dan defecation at Bonnaroo.
Oh my God, I don't even have a question after that. Hang on, let me get my notes.
And now we dismount. And
I sure hope Dan tunes in and listens to this and see and here's our reference to 2010 Bonnaroo.
He could. I talk to him all the time, so he very well could. I'll tell him to.
Thanks for listening to SEC Football Live, brought to you by Fecal Tote.
Yes.
All right. ML Rose, everybody.
Yeah.
This is the content they're paying to sponsor, Steve.
Damn right.
All right. Okay. All right. Let me take a deep breath.
Okay.
Take a deep breath. All right. From a college basketball standpoint, What are the things people need to know? College football fans that are listening to this show that don't pay as much attention, they're casual fans. What do they need to know about this conference and these teams heading into the last few weeks here? Obviously, Georgia, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, those teams are on the bubble. What the hell's going on with South Carolina and LSU? Vanderbilt as well. They've had a bunch of good wins on Saturdays in Nashville over the last few weeks. What do people need to know about this league as we sort of wrap up the regular season here in the next few weeks?
My biggest thing I would say is watch Thursday of the SEC tournament, when in the past it was kind of something you could fast forward through. I think this is the biggest Thursday we'll ever have, because we will have teams squarely sitting on the bubble, and we will have potentially NCAA playing games across the board on that Thursday. So I think that's going to be the most interesting. If you look at bracketology and Joe Lunardi, there's a lot of SEC just kind of hovering around that spot, some on the good side, some not. So I think that is certainly going to be something to watch. These games right now, they are what they are. A lot of teams have kind of hit that wall. They're ready for March. They're ready to get through the end of the season. But come SEC tournament, this is going to be do or die. And I just think that Thursday is something, make sure you have the day off.
Couldn't it be Wednesday too?
Wednesday could be important too.
I mean, like, I'm looking at the bracket.
It could be survival day. Yeah,
you've got
which is crazy, because Wednesdays usually give away tickets.
It's terrible. It's empty building.
I know.
But you've got the 9 seed, the 10, the 11, the 12, the 13, and the 14 all playing, and all of those teams could be on the bubble as they head into the tournament. Unfortunately, and this is really a bad. I'm just realizing this, and I was afraid of this.
Yeah,
it's spring break week for Nashville Metro schools.
Oh no.
And my daughters will not be in the country. So neither will I.
I won't be either. Where are you going?
I'm leaving the country.
To go where?
Just around. Out and about.
Like Europe country or
No. Another country.
Okay,
I'm taking the girl. I had to get the passports for the girls and everything.
Are we going to the same place?
It's their first trip out of the country.
There's not a cruise involved, is there?
There is not. I don't.
Okay.
I'm not a cruise ship guy. I like the one in Alaska. The cruise we
Yeah.
did in Alaska was extraordinary because it's not really like a cruise.
Yeah.
I've done one in the Caribbean. It was fine. It was all right. I'd much rather be at the resort, like in a country,
Gotcha.
like on the beach, like just kind of chill, go on some excursions. But like I get it. My brothers are huge cruise people.
Yeah.
I get it. Are you doing a cruise? Is that what it sounds like?
Yeah, we're going to the Bahamas in a couple weeks.
Okay, there you go. No, we're doing Mexico. So we're going to Mexico.
Beautiful.
Yep. Yeah, can't wait to eat
Yeah.
delicious food.
Yes.
Put my feet in the sand and make.
Have you been to Mexico? You've been to Mexico.
Make all the women in my life happy.
Yeah.
I've been to the border a number of times, which is a very
cool.
strange thing to say.
I know.
I've been to Corpus Christi and like looked at it.
Yeah. No, it's good. You'll enjoy.
But I've never actually been into Mexico, so I'm excited about it. Check off another country in the old list. So I'm excited about it. Can't wait. I guess I'll be watching college basketball from the resort. So we'll see. Otherwise, thank you all for listening. ML Rose, of course. Make sure you check out Childers on Sirius XM Radio with Rick Neuheisel on Full Ride, as well as Field of 68 After Dark. You can check him out there. You can watch that show on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. Make sure you go subscribe to the Field of 68 YouTube page and Twitter account as well. Great host of cast of characters that are it's a cavalcade of experts and former players as well. And so great to see you on there. I don't really consume a ton of basketball content, but I like listening to you guys do it. So keep it up. And otherwise, we appreciate everybody for hanging out and for listening to the show. If you're on YouTube, please, again, thumbs up, notifications on. If you're watching on Twitter, Facebook, share. If you're listening on the podcast app, go ahead and write a review. If you do not give us 5 stars, you are a hater.
Yes.
ML Rose, everybody. For Chris Childers, I'm Braden Gall. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.